says the industry wants certainty, and with the legislation that can secure funding for a project for multiple years in the future, that gives certainty and will attract investment. And finally, we put in the final clause in the proposal to put the grant funding in the form of an annual amount to eliminate any sunset clause in it, and we put a financial cap on it. And with that, I welcome your questions.
Senator Siddiston?
I understand that your delegation here is part of the Indian Resource Council, and we've been told that the Indian Resource Council has been in consultation and with the federal government, and so this legislation before us is a result of many years of consultation and some compromises made. And yet, despite that, you are here before us suggesting that we make some more amendments. And my question is, I'm aware that there has been litigation and the Supreme Court of Canada decision recently that went in favor of the federal government. And I'm asking, is it because you're a little bit more familiar with the legalities of this whole business of Indian oil and gas issues, or are you here in part because you have an axe to grind, as it were, against the federal government?
Who's going to take that question? Chief Labelle, or Chief Poucette, or Chief Bearspaw?
Yes, I think I would relate that to my legal rep, Mr. Doug Ray. Respond to that, I should say.
Go ahead, Mr. Ray. Very briefly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, Senator, you're quite correct in suggesting that the Stoney and Lakota nations have more at stake than perhaps a number of other First Nations. The Stoneys are the largest natural gas producer nations in Canada. They are sophisticated in terms of their operations in that regard, and I would suggest to you that the chiefs are here today based on their knowledge of the issues and what's being actually proposed in Bill C-5, certainly not because they have any axe to grind with the Government of Canada.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm not surprised that about the INEX stalling tactics. But does any of these regulations protect the environment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Bill C-5 does have provisions for the promulgation of regulations that protect the environment.
Thank you. Senator Lang?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief because I know time is passing us by. Thank you for taking the time to come before us. I'd just like to have, I guess, two questions. Just want to get it clarified. My understanding is that you have been involved in the process all the way along in the drafting of the bill and the consultations with INAC and with the Indian Resource Council for the past 10 years. Is that correct? And secondly, it's my understanding, and maybe you can clarify for the record, that there was a number of issues that was brought forward by your area of the country, because various parts of the country differ. But you brought forward various amendments, and some of those amendments are incorporated in the bill that we have before us.
I think it might be one or two in the amendments that was amended. I think we put out 23 amendments out of that 30 from Stoney Nation.
So, and Mr. Chairman, I just have one further question about the joint committees that are ongoing, and where a lot of the changes will be discussed further and maybe put into regulation. Your organization are part of those committees and part of those ongoing discussions as we speak. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Brazeau?
Yes, thank you very much. I have one quick question, and it's for Mr. Seymour. We heard earlier from the Indian Resource Council in terms of who they advocate on behalf, being 133 First Nations communities across the country. So the same question will apply to you. How many First Nations communities do you represent, and what is your the membership base of who you lobby on behalf?
We're a collaboration of that group and the Akwesasne Petroleum Co-op and the Ontario Fuel Handlers Association. The actual number would be that group plus I think about another 60 or 70 groups. But we're not representing them. We're representing their issue of getting funding. And we see that this is an ongoing process. And we're at the House, when they asked us, well, if it's just funding, why don't you go to the federal stimulus program? They're giving out funding, but they're also giving out funding with a sunset clause over a period of 2 years, and then that's no more. And government officials are right now throwing money at the problem. Well, we want funding in this area enshrined in legislation, because we know from history, 1946, when they started production in Alberta, that billions of dollars have been taken from Indian lands, and there have been billions of dollars of business and job opportunities that have been missed, yet the life within a lot of communities is of have-not people, economically depressed, and we know all the social ills that come from that, and we could have been well in advance in being economically independent now if had the government acted in our best interest in the fiduciary trust regime.
But you don't represent any First Nations communities per se?
No, I'm just a collaboration of those groups.
Thank you very much. Senator Campbell, you're the last questioner.
Very short. I have to admit I'm confused, because the issue that I wanted to hear about and wanted to listen to was the fiduciary responsibility and that amendment. I have no idea, Mr. Seymour, where yours comes into this.
Can I answer that, Mr.?
Yes.
We made an agreement right at the onset. We will just focus on economic development, getting funding.
No, that's not what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with here is an amendment that is requested by your group to add to the act fiduciary responsibility as it stands in other acts and is a given in most other acts. There's not. I heard nothing until you spoke, and I got your presentation about funding, and in fact, we don't deal with money here. We can't deal with money here. So I'm confused about that. The only other question I have is, if there's 130 First Nations involved that have agreed on the bill, understanding that there are other issues, some 30 other issues that have been put off to the side and will be addressed at another point in time, is there not a democratic process within this group that says, okay, the majority want this, we'll do that, and then we'll go and work forward on this? I don't understand how 130 versus 8, 9. I don't understand how we would, go against that.
Are you asking me a question?
I'm just asking generally how from a democratic point of view does this work?
Oh, if I may, I would say that Chief Poucette or Labelle or Bearspaw would be more suited to answer that question.
I'd just like to, first of all, before I actually enter or comment to that previous comment by Senator, I appreciate it. It goes back to what my fellow chiefs mentioned. We're not here to stall or anything. We're just here to consider an amendment to the existing proposed. And also, you're right. It goes by also what I said earlier. As First Nations community, in particular Stoney Nakota Nation, there's challenges, and I appreciate your comment about INEC stalling tactics. I guess that's what I was trying to refer to, I guess. But going back to your comment, I'd like to refer that to our technician,